Okay, so we're working on the lock out of the new trunk, which unfortunately I don't have a key for, so the lock is kind of useless. But the little arm that we broke off on the good one, we were able to figure out how to release the little tabs and slide the arm out. So we have a good arm to put into the good lock. So as long as we can get the pin, the broken pin out of the good lock, which we got here, as long as we can get this broken pin out, which is this pin, then we can just put this arm in and we should be good to go. This lock, if I can't get a key for it from the scrapyard, then it'll kind of be useless because Volkswagen decided that you can't rekey the tumblers unless you have the correct key. So we'll set that aside for now. Okay, so we got our new trunk lid just mounted kind of where we think it needs to be. Probably have to have some fine adjustment later. And we have our original lock with the little arm changed from the other lock. So this should be ready to go. We're going to put this back in, get it mounted, and then we can put the rest of the electrical and mechanical components back together, feed our wires back in, and then we can test to make sure that everything works. What we might actually do before we put the wires in is test the linkage mechanism out of this trunk lid that we just got. If the motor works, then we'll just mount this in the car where it was and use it as it is. If this one doesn't work, then we'll probably resort to the original one. But we'll test it before we go mounting it, just to save ourselves some time. But I've kind of cleaned up the rubber seal on this that keeps the water and dirt out of the trunk to make sure that it's going to be doing a good job. And the hole here looks like it's, I should have brought a rag or something. Do we have one? We do. Just to get dirt and grime off of there, because that's where the actual sealing happens. This trunk is in quite good shape. It's got a little bit of a stone chip on the bottom there. So now we can put this in the correct direction. Feed it in there. So it should fall in when it's in the right place. And then as for rotation, you have to rely on the screws that are in the back here. These little black screws, which should hold it in the right place. There is a little bit of adjustment just looking at it from underneath here. A little bit of rotational adjustment available, but if you try and match up the screw heads with the marks on the trunk from before, it should be pretty close to where it's supposed to go. And it's good to get all three in loosely before you try and tighten up any one of them fully. Basically all I'm doing is lining up the wear marks in the paint with the screw heads, and we'll just take a look to see how close to straight it is. Looks pretty good to me without a square or a level. It's pretty hard to tell, but it's close. Looks like the top needs to move over a little bit. That's pretty good. I don't think anyone will be able to tell from any kind of a distance. I agree. Okay. So I'll snug these up. They weren't very tight to begin with, and the reason for that is because of the rubber seal. And if the more you tighten them up, you're just squeezing the seal out. So you don't need to put very much on them. I'm just using a screwdriver so that you can't put too much force on it. And it really doesn't require much at all to keep it from moving. Just like that. So that's the lock mounted now, and that's the original lock, so our original key will work properly. So we know that mechanism works, so we're just going to mount it back in the trunk as it was to begin with and hook up the linkages. We didn't bother changing the lock on this one. It looks like it's in great shape and everything works. It's all lubricated, so we just left it as it was. So we'll mount this. Of course this catch won't work. These plugs are very finicky. If you don't get the little tiny tabs depressed all the way, you can't get the thing out. All right, so. You'll see these studs are not a normal thread. They've kind of got almost teeth in them. So it's really, really easy to cross thread the nuts. And if these studs are rusty at all on the one you're working on, there's a good chance that you either won't be able to get the nut off or it won't tighten up when you're putting it back together. So you just have to be careful with that. Usually they're in good shape because they're inside and they're protected from the weather, but not always. Line that up with where it was. Like I said, a few millimeters off isn't going to make a whole lot of difference one way or the other. So we'll snug these up. It's also a good idea for these as well to bring them up together. You don't want to have one way tighter than the rest are until they're all snugged up. And they should come to a stop. If they don't, it means it's likely stripping the thread or there's something being pinched in between. And you don't need a very big ratchet. Something small is better so you don't put too much force on it. So that's good. We can remount the little ball joint tie rod ends here. This is the one that we broke on the first one, so I'm going to be really careful not to damage this one. Hopefully you're not going to be able to see while I'm doing this, but oh my goodness. Apparently I will not. I'll try some pliers here, but you just want to make sure you're not applying any sideways force on this little arm because it definitely will not support it, as we found out earlier. So just like that, pop that over. Maybe this one will cooperate, maybe it won't. Come on, let's go. Oh my goodness. They definitely don't intend for you to be taking them off, so. Can't really fit pliers in here very well. If you get it on the right angle, there we go. So now when you activate the motor, just make sure everything works. Oh, that's really tight. Try that now. Activate the whole mechanism. So, I think we're ready to feed the wire harness back through the car, through the trunk lid. So just take your time, be gentle with the wires and the clips and everything, and eventually you get it to the point where you can put this little rubber plug in here. And some people will be saying, well, why do you need that? And again, it's a sealing thing. It seals up the trunk lid from the weather, because this is wide open. The weather stripping doesn't do anything until here. So this is actually exposed to rain and salt and dirt, so that keeps the inside of the trunk sealed off as well. This little plastic guard we took off earlier hooks underneath the bottom, and then you just pop it over the top. I can't get my fingers on it. There we go. And that keeps the wire bundle out of the way of the shock and the hinge. So that part's all done. We can put this. I think we might actually be able to make these little plastic clips work again. They were pretty rough trying to get them out, but as long as it stays in where it's supposed to be, that's all that you care. It's just holding the wires in the right position. Orange plug into the socket here, and it goes into this little clip in there. This one is supposed to reach there, however it does not. Or maybe it's supposed to be here. There we go. License plate wire. Try to feed it up into the hole there so you can get it from the top side. Is this whole thing supposed to go through there? We didn't think so. This one mounts there, I think. Nope.
I think it mounts
It's a fun little game trying to get everything back where it goes if you didn't take detailed pictures to start with. So this has to go in here, so that one goes up there. This one must go. So maybe this needs to be on the other side of it. Go through here. Okay, that's looking better. This goes in there. This goes back in its mount. Like that. This one pops into here. Your plug for your latch. You gotta just wiggle it in. It's a little bit snug. Like that. This needs to go. This one goes through here to get to the license plate light, which is. Wrong compartment. It's gotta go through here. Nope, still not right. So this right side is definitely more difficult to find the right position for it to fit through to where it needs to reach. It has to reach to your license plate light socket, obviously. So it should go where we had it. It's gotta go sideways. Should work. That takes care of that. And the only thing left, plug that little white clip back in like that. And the little wire plug for the latch sensor. Hopefully I've got it the right way around. Yep, it's got a little flat on one corner. It only fits one way, so you'll know when you have it right. Don't force it if it doesn't want to go. Just like that. And we are wired. So there you have it. Wire harness is back in. And I'll just check the buttons once more to make sure that everything works. And we should be able to now close the trunk and make sure that the alignment is all right before we finish off the interior panel. So, try the button. Seems to work okay. Yep. So now everything's clear. Twigs, extra charged. And our shocks are back on, which are a little bit sloppy, but we still do the check. So you can see now how close it is to in the line. It looks not bad. Now this I'm okay with. It's actually a little bit inside, so it could probably come out a bit. But this side looks like it's the opposite. It's sticking out past, so the whole thing needs to tip a little bit. So we'll do that before we go any further, which will also probably stop the lock from binding quite so much. So that's one thing to note, is once you've got the cylinders back on, the hydraulic assist cylinders, you'll have to use a wrench on the lower nuts because you can't fit the socket on anymore. Which is unfortunate, but it's just a design choice they made. So I'm just going to loosen the bottom two again to the point that they'll let it slide. And on the top you can use this side was in, so it needs to go out a little bit. Try a little bit, you can always do more. So you don't want to go too far first try. And this one needs to go in a little bit. bit. Let's see. And you don't have to completely tighten it up again to try it. Make your adjustment and then bring it down slow to make sure that everything's going to clear to begin with. And then you can try latching it. It's definitely closer. It also looks like it's too low, which is what happens with those little rubber bumpers. This side I'm happy with the front, but the top is a little low as well, so that's the bumpers again. So this side I think we want maybe a touch more in. Release it again here. It shouldn't bounce like that when you release it, so that's kind of an indication that there's a little bit of binding happening still. Yeah, I'm happy with the way that fits. This one's pretty good. If it comes up a little bit to meet the top, then it'll be pretty much perfectly flush. So we'll tighten up the nuts here. So let's adjust these guys. It is a 3mm Allen key for these bumper adjustment screws, and you just got to back it out. I'm not sure actually how far you need to back it out, but you'll see the stop starts to wiggle, which means that it's kind of loose. So then you can use a flat blade screwdriver just to kind of gently bring it out a couple of clicks, however far you think. I'll try 2 clicks on each of these to see if that brings the trunk up to a more reasonable level. And the screws I believe are metal, but you're threading into plastic, so you don't want to put much force on them or you'll risk stripping it. We should have actually counted clicks on both of them and made them the same, but doesn't necessarily mean that both will be the same. It could be that one side of the car is different than the other. So click for me. 1, 2. Try 2 clicks on both, and it's trial and error. Try that and see if it meets your expectations for body alignment, and go from there. You can always change these later on. They're not behind the cover, so you can always get them. Basically, you're just looking to see that they don't wiggle. The rubber's going to move a little bit, but it's supposed to give. So we'll try that again and see what we've got. So based on it still being low, that comes down to actual latch adjustment, which we can take a quick look at. I'm not sure. It's got a big bang on it now. So yeah, we need to adjust the latch here, I guess. So I believe there is some adjustment in the mounting screws for the latch. So we're just gonna loosen these off and see if we can lower the latch a little bit, so that it's not quite so much of a boing when you release it. So it does have a little bit of, so I'm just going to bring it down all the way, and hopefully that'll be the amount that we need to make it correct. Otherwise we might have to go back to the other latch from the original trunk. Try that, and if you may not be able to get the kind of alignment that you want, sometimes these latch pins actually have adjustment. It doesn't look like these ones do. Sometimes you have a couple of bolts in here that you can move this pin, and actually I might be lying here. I think the adjustment for the pin is actually a screw in the end, so you'd have to take this chrome trim piece off to access it, which I won't do right now, but I'm pretty sure what I'm looking at on the end there's an internal hex in the end that loosens the post, and the post will have a little bit of adjustment. So like I said, I'm not going to do that right now, but that is an option if you can't get what you need out of the latch. So I'll try it once more. If it's not cooperating for now, we'll just lower the bumpers back down, and another time we'll look at adjusting the pin properly. It's not bad. See how much it boings here when we release it. Yeah, it's pretty hard on the latch. So what I'm gonna do is lower the bump stops back down to where they were for now. And in the future, we'll maybe do a little video on pulling that trim piece off and adjusting the latch pin. Okay, try it once more here and then we should be able to put the interior back together. Much better. It shouldn't take a lot of force to close it. It still bounces a little bit, but it doesn't have nearly the twang that it did before. It's much better. And I'm fairly happy with how the body seams came out. It definitely is a little bit low on the back, but when we get to adjusting that latch pin, it'll be better. But the back looks good. So now we can bring it over to the other one here, which has the hole for the clip already, and we have our loop for the cable now. So we'll see if I can get this to cooperate with me here. It's most of the way in and it will definitely do its job. So, like we took out before, put our little cable end back in, like that. I don't think we want to put it in here because then it's going to be rubbing against the cable. However, maybe it's supposed to go through here. It goes under here. As long as that doesn't interfere with the, which I don't think it will. Long term though, I probably don't want it rubbing, so I think I'm gonna keep it on the outside so that there's no chance of it wearing any components. Let it hang like that. So I think that is everything. We don't have any extra pieces other than the license plate lights. And everything works. I didn't check the actual license plate lights themselves, but we can plug one in and try it, I guess. Just to make sure that there's power to it. Just hold that. So we know at least that one works, and I guess while we're here we might as well just plug it into this one quick and make sure that both plugs are good, because you never know when you might disturb a wire. So they're both good. So when I get around to cleaning up the paint back here and putting the lights in, I know I'll have good license plate lights. So to me that looks like it's exactly the same. So the cable needs to come through here so that the cable casing and the latch are in that hollow instead of against the metal. So somehow this has to get through here. And I think in this case it does need to then go on the inside of the linkage for the latch release. And then that obviously makes it way more difficult to install, but I think that's the better routing so that everything clears. One of the main reasons I decided to change this over, because the new trunk that I bought didn't have it, was so that if your battery's dead, or if something happens with these frail plastic links, you still have a strictly mechanical way to release the latch so you can open the trunk. Otherwise, you're mainly relying on electronics, which more often than not will fail on you. So see if I can fight with this cable first here. Not going to be able to see very well, but I'll get my hand in better from here. It's really not cooperative. Almost on, but I have no way to access it now. Definitely not a user-friendly design, if this is in fact the routing it is supposed to have. You want to make sure you try and get the security catch on, otherwise there's a chance that the cable could pop out like that. I don't know how you're supposed to get your hand in there. You really can't.
Might be easier if I hold it for you.
Oh, I think I've almost got it here. The latch won't slide now. Oh, there we go. There we go. That is the nice click sound you want to hear. So you can see now in there, hopefully, that the cable is in its hook and the little latch is around the casing, so it should stay put now. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, we can slide that up in there. There's no interference there. All the holes line up, which is what you want to see.
We gotta get a couple screws in.
13 screws to put back in, so count them out as you go. Okay, so I'm going to put one in the bottom here to help us hold it up right away. There. In this case, it's a good idea to put 1 or 2 or 3 in all the way and center them in your cone, because then you know the whole panel is in the right place and you can put the rest of them in at your leisure. And these really don't need much tension at all. They should, when you install them, they should come to a stop when you've reached the end of the thread. If it doesn't, it either means you cross-threaded it or you missed the hole altogether. So that's got 3 in, so now I shouldn't have to hold it anymore, and I'm just going to go around sequentially and put the rest of the screws in. And then we'll do one final test of our latch and release mechanisms, and that will be about it for this trunk.